Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Neri Cast. I'm your host, Josh. And first of all, I want to take this time to thank all of you guys who have subscribed, who have engaged in the channel, whether it's sharing it, liking it, because you guys know the more you engage in these channels, the algorithm shoots out the channel to other people that might want to watch as well, which is kind of a way of spreading Jesus around YouTube and around social media. So thank you for the support. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, all the channels and everything. And we'll include all those links below for easy access. But I'm super excited for today. I actually went in and dug through and had to choose like which socks do I want to wear for this episode. But my guest today is Scott Williams, one of the co-founders, the CEO of Sock Religious, which is super cool. Scott, thanks for being on with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I've never met you, talked to you, and so I love to reach out to people, see if they'd be guests on the show. So I thought maybe we'd just start with maybe just like a little bit about you and growing up, where you're from, and your faith journey, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, I've been a Indianapolis and surrounding area native all my life. So
Mm,
I went to high school here. I went to college here. I worked through college in the Indy area,
mm,
and kind of an Indianapolis nerd. So
nice.
yeah, I did that, and I sold wine for a living after college for a few years. I did
Okay.
a pilgrimage across the United States with Crossroads. Have you ever heard of Crossroads before?
I feel like I have. I don't
It's
know.
a pro life walk across the country,
Okay, nice.
and it was amazing. I don't think they do it anymore. If I'm not mistaken, I think COVID might have uh,
Oh yeah,
ended that experience.
yeah.
But
That's unfortunate. COVID kind of shut some stuff down, and then just some of them, if they weren't big enough, they just didn't come back around.
yeah, yep.
But,
But it was pretty neat. And then ended up working in youth ministry for about 10 years. I worked at a parish for 3 years on the south side of Indy, and worked for the Archdiocese of Indianapolis for several years after that.
okay, nice. What'd you do with the archdiocese?
I was the a few different roles. I was a coordinator of youth ministry for a while, which was somewhat of like a glorified event planner. I
Oh,
put
okay.
together retreats and mission trips and helped in all sorts of different ways there. And then I was the director of youth ministry for a period of time as well. So
Okay.
got to work with, I think we had 133 parishes in the diocese when I was there. So I got to work with youth ministry professionals in different areas. And being in Indianapolis, we hosted the National Catholic Youth Conference every other year. So
Oh yeah,
got
yeah.
to work on the national level with some of that
Oh, that's
stuff
awesome.
as well.
That's cool. So what made you like take the jump from like selling wine to like, you know what, I want to work for the diocese?
Yeah, so I graduated from college during a recession, and I actually wanted to work in city government. That was my idea.
Mm,
Like I did an internship with the mayor's office in Indianapolis,
okay.
and there was something that I really liked about working in local government. And
Mhm.
I don't think Parks and Rec was even around then, so I
Oh,
can't give credit to that. But but yeah, there's something really cool about that. But there was no they were kind of on a hiring freeze. There was two jobs when I graduated college that were available. One was uh, I think lifeguard and city controller, and neither of those two
yeah.
I was qualified for. So
Yeah.
not that either one of those I would want, but
Yeah.
ended up uh, going into the recession proof industry, which was selling wine, and
Mhm.
got to learn some tactical sales skills from
Yeah.
there. But ultimately, I wasn't super passionate about it. I wasn't even
Mhm.
much of a wine drinker,
Yeah.
uh, but got to learn a lot through that
Yeah.
process. And I felt like I was just kind of craving more. I went on a retreat around that time. I kind of really just wanted to seek more, and I got to
Mhm.
meet some like Catholic school teachers and started like digging into, okay, what are ways that I can work in a more religious setting? There's something that was kind of like drawing me to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I had gotten roped into volunteering as a youth ministry, like just a small group leader at my home parish, like the
Mhm.
parish I grew up in. And I said yes to that. And I ended up like really loving it. And so then I found a parish that had a job opening for youth ministry and got into it and really enjoyed everything about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always cool to see because like I work in ministry as well, doing some fundraising and stuff, and it's cool to see like look back and see like where God had his hands in things. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that he was like, well, I really need you to maybe go into this because it's going to give you certain skills and talents that are going to be very beneficial to sacrilegious later or whatever.
Right.
And so I was kind of the same way. I kind of grew up not really knowing exactly what I wanted to do. My degree is literally music performance, and now I do fundraising. So like
Yeah.
about as opposite as you can get from each other. But
Well,
even the degree, it was like the performing aspect and being on stage. And I've performed in front of thousands of people. I've like done speaking things in front of thousands of people, and
right.
a lot of great, exposure. But it's cool to see how God like works through those things.
Yeah. And I loved entrepreneurship in general. So like, I remember like when I was in high school, I had a grass mowing business, and
Oh,
I had a truck that I pulled the trailer on. And then I was like,
mhm.
all right, well, what if I put a snowplow on the front of this and made money in the wintertime?
Yeah.
And I really kind of even approached ministry from that setting as well.
Mhm.
Like, I wouldn't say that I colored inside the lines in
Mhm.
the world of doing youth ministry. I kind of looked at it from an organizational standpoint.
Wow.
Not to say that I did anything like contrary to the faith, but
Yeah.
I tried different things. I looked at it more from an entrepreneurial perspective
Mhm.
than from a ministry perspective. That's all what I knew. That's
Yeah.
who I was. So it
Yeah.
ended up working out.
And the church needs people like that. Like I'm the same way. When I got hired on, they actually poached me. I owned my own business. I had this little protein shake shop. I kind of went music performance to wanting to do like intramural sports. I thought this guy at Oklahoma State, where I went to school, I was like, this guy just runs the intramural sports program on campus at OSU. I was like, that's the coolest job ever. Like I want to do that. And it just wasn't working out. I wasn't getting into grad school. I wasn't qualified to obviously apply for jobs. So trying to get the right education, but I ended up working at a gym, which got me personal training and sales experience, kind of introduced me to the sales world, which then led to an opportunity to manage a fitness studio, which is kind of more smaller boutique fitness and business.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, I want to get on the nutrition side, I think, because that's where people are really struggling. And so that's when we did that shake shop and worked with people one on one, but also grew a business.
Yeah,
And
different than Shake Shack.
yeah, oh yeah, way different. And so uh, I feel like that entrepreneurial side though, that was such a big part of my interview process for this job, which I was
Hmm.
not looking for. They were like, who should we look for this job? I don't even know how to hire for this position, is what the priest was saying. And he talked to another priest and he's like, well, I just hired for this position. I looked for entrepreneurial, creative, obviously it's gotta be super passionate about the faith,
Yeah.
but get someone that's not going to think like you. And it's why I think development directors and priests work so well together, because
Mm.
they just aren't taught the business side of things. And then they graduate seminary. It's like, okay, now go run this for some, when they get like become the pastor of a parish, it's like, this is like a multi-million dollar business you're going to run.
Yeah.
And it's just, they're like, I don't know
Small
how to do it.
corporations. Yeah.
Yeah. So like need people like us, this entrepreneur, that creative mind to think outside the box. So I love coming to our priest and say, hey, I have an idea. And he's like, okay, hold on a second. Like, he's got to
Yeah.
prepare himself. And halfway through, he's like asking questions. And halfway through, sometimes it's just like, I don't know about that. Or it's like, man, I've never thought about that. That'd be a really good idea.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So how'd you end up getting there? What was the journey?
So that little boutique fitness place I managed,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know the YouTube rules. I don't know what I can say. I guess if I'm not talking bad, it doesn't matter who I say. But Orange Theory Fitness, I was there, and one day, I was trying to hire a full sales staff. I actually ended up hiring, the last girl I hired is now my wife, and so we met there, and then when she introduced me to the Catholic faith, so I wasn't Catholic, I started going to the parish that was like literally a block down the street and on the same street, and she introduced me to the priest there. The priest heard I was at Orange Theory. He said, I've been wanting to come check that place out. So he came down and started working out there, loved it. And he started working out there, and I just started getting really close to them just as a friend.
Yeah.
He got reassigned to the campus here at the University of Tulsa. And he was the one that when his development director left, he was like, I don't even know how to hire for this position. Who am I looking for? And he called the priest that actually married me and my wife. And he was like, you should look for these attributes. Actually, you should ask Josh if he's interested. And so, yeah, he just came and asked me. He's like, hey, I want to pitch something to you. And I thought he was going to ask me if my business wanted to sponsor the place
Yeah.
or something. He's like, would you be interested in working for us? And I was
Were
like,
you Catholic yet?
yeah, I just
Okay.
became Catholic like a year and a half or so in, and on fire for it. And we were volunteering, doing everything. We went on Acts retreats and plugged into That Man Is You and all sorts of stuff. But I had no idea that that like working for the church, like you weren't just basically signing up for a life of poverty. I'm like, oh, you can actually make a career doing this, especially in the development world, fundraising. Definitely a very important role. And yeah, and I came in, I interviewed, and the main thing they loved is the small business ownership, like
Yeah.
attributes I had, but then also the creative mindset. I told him, I was like, if I don't know the answer and don't know how to do something, which is probably going to be a lot, I will be able to come up with creative ways we can do it, or I'm going to be able to get creative to figure out how to do it, or like utilize my resources. But yeah, they loved it. And I know with entrepreneurship, the more transparent you can be like with your team
Mm-hmm.
and let them know these are my strengths, but these are my weaknesses. Then you hire people that can do your weaknesses, and everything just runs super well. And I feel like that's what we've been able to kind of establish here, which has been really nice.
Amazing.
But yeah, so then you went from the archdiocese. Then how did Sacrilegious come around?
Yeah. So not every youth ministry and lay ecclesial ministry professional role is the most lucrative career path.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not always the case.
yeah,
No, all joking aside, like we knew that we would need some sort of side income at some point. And I always just like I have a Google folder full of terrible business ideas that'll never see the light of day. But I've always just had ideas. Well, what if we tried this out? What if we tried this out?
yeah,
What if we did this? And it didn't hurt to say, we might be able to make some additional money here because I loved what I was doing. Honestly,
mm-hmm.
like
Yeah,
I had just did a master's degree and completed that in church management. Like I had no intention of leaving
yeah,
the role that I was in,
mm-hmm.
but I started this business. My wife and I were on the way to Chicago, and we're just taking kind of like a weekend trip. And I thought, what if we put saints on socks? Because I was like into socks at the time. So I'd wear a shirt and tie to work most days in the chancery, and socks became my fun thing. So I'd wear like donut socks, the National Donut Day. I'd wear my American flag socks on patriotic holidays or weeks. And I was like, well, what if we had like saint socks and we could wear our St. Michael socks on the Feast of the Archangels, or we could wear our Lady Guadalupe socks during that feast day, or, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And no one was doing anything like that at that point, but like novelty socks were definitely in. So we developed one design. I made this terrible sketch of what I wanted for a JP2 sock. And it was like stick figures and like gave some pattern ideas. And my friend Madison, who works full time with us now, she designed our first sock and put it on. She was a graphic designer by trade. She worked at the diocese with me at the time, and we sent it off for production. And we were just like a month away from the National Catholic Youth Conference at that time. So we were like, if this thing's gonna, have any chance of surviving as a business opportunity, at least like maybe we can make our money back on what we spent to get them made at that time. So I asked my wife, I was like, can I get 1,200 pairs of socks to sell at this thing? And she was like, how about 600 or something like that? I can't remember the exact numbers, but we made them. They came. And at that time I was still working at the diocese, and like part of my job and responsibility was to help coordinate a lot of the local logistics for the event itself. So there's no way I was going to be able to set up and run a booth. I was like, Mom, Dad, I've got this weird thing that I'm trying out. Can you help me? And my mom was like all in. And awesome. I got a couple of people that were there to help her, but they ended up selling like a sock a minute, and we sold out in 8 show hours. And we're like, okay, we've got something here. So over the course of the next, few months, we took the profits from that first sock and moved into the next one. And and every month we've released a new sock, and we've actually kept that going. We've released at least one new design every month since November of 2017. Oh, wow. And we realized that like, this is something. We found this niche audience where like we kind of thought of it as like this would be a fun thing to do, but we found this niche audience of Catholics that love their faith, but they don't take themselves too seriously. And that's, then we found out like there's so much opportunity for starting conversations and evangelism, and like people want to be close to the saints, and that's just a beautiful thing. And the business continued to grow, and I was working on it before work and I was working on the business after work,
Hmm.
and kind of just burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
And that was just like maintaining it. That wasn't putting a whole lot of effort into the growth of the business. So
Yeah.
in May of 2019, I think it was, we decided that I would go full time in the business.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like when we maybe don't see that, like, okay, this is like what God has in plan and this is going to be a huge thing, or like this is going to be where I'm calling you to, it sometimes will just happen on its own. I feel like I just kept praying with this podcast, even like, God, if this is meant to be, like, let it succeed, and help me to be like just a servant of it, and it's all yours. But also let it fail. Like, if this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't want to be wasting my time on this, please, like, let it fail. Like, let viewership be bad. Let some subscribers not come, and I
Yeah.
would literally like ask him to do that stuff. But it just kept growing. It's just like we hit 100 subscribers in our first like 2 months, and then hit
Amazing.
200 in the next 2 weeks, and then it was just they were just coming in like rolling like crazy, and it's just been awesome to see, and it's just been super cool. And I was like, well, maybe he's wanting me to stay open to this, like maybe stay open to like
Yeah.
what's here. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna take it one step at a time and see what happens. And so was that kind of like your experience as well? It's just kind of like, I don't know if this is going to be something big, but I'll take it one step at a time. And then you took that step to be full time, and then at that point, you're probably starting to see the overall picture.
Yeah. Like it was something that we couldn't ignore. And, um, it's tough to think like being in a professional ministry setting saying, I think God is calling me to pursue a sock business. Uh,
Yeah.
and that seems a little silly,
Yeah.
but there was something there that we couldn't ignore, and we realized that it was having a real impact.
Mm.
There was, I mean, plenty of stories that we had heard over the years that have lent itself to that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's hard, like it's hard moving away from something that you really love and
Yeah.
enjoy doing. So there was a lot of just, it was more about the the heartache of leaving a profession that I love to
Mm-hmm.
go pursue something else that I love. There was a lot of conflict in that. Um, but from like the financial perspective, I knew that I could take care of my family. Like,
Mm-hmm.
bottom line is like, if I needed to go find a factory job and work a new entry level position to support my family, if this totally failed, and
Mm-hmm.
if it was a bad idea, it would have failed by now. But
Oh yeah.
like you said, and like I knew that I could get back on my feet relatively
Mm-hmm.
quickly. So we spent some time in discernment on that, and we decided, all right, if this is growing at the pace that it's going, just maintaining it, like
Mm-hmm.
what could we do if we really poured gas on this fire?
Yeah.
And I had the choice of deciding like, okay, do I want to hire somebody to do that, or do I want to do it myself?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and ultimately, like a founder led business is going to have a little bit more traction and heat
Yeah.
than something that's hired out.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome. And so, have you guys like seen like stories come in and testimonies? I know you talked about the evangelization opportunities that it
Yeah.
presents. Because I know that's for us. We utilize Sacrilegious for like gifts. So we get like a
Mm-hmm.
major donor or something, or we find out he was born on the feast day of Saint Andrew or whatever. Like, oh, or someone that you guys have. Like, we'll look there first to see like maybe we should get something here. And like we all got like I got my Saint Michael the Archangel on my birthday because he's the patron saint or my confirmation saint. And so, have you guys seen like stories come in though of like people saying like, "Hey, I wore my socks the other day and like got into this awesome conversation," or
Yeah, it's funny. You're not the only one of my good friends. He used to like put a pair of socks in an overnight FedEx package to like the CFO of a chancery, and
oh yeah,
sent an email that said, "Hey, did you get my socks?" And he said he always got a return email on those.
oh,
But it's like they're we always like to say like they're we like to start conversations through joyful products. That's kind of like the tagline of Soccer Religious.
yeah,
And when I worked full time in ministry, the hardest part for me, it's not for everybody, like the hardest part for me was starting the conversation.
yeah,
Um, I would often put myself in situations where I was in a place where I had to start a conversation, whether that was like in the lunchroom at a high school, or at a CYO sports game,
Mhm.
or putting myself in situations where I was almost obligated to start a conversation. And
Yeah.
then once that conversation starts, like the Holy Spirit can take over a lot easier, and you can talk about your witness, you can talk about your testimony, you can share your own experience of faith.
Mhm.
And then you can get in the more technical aspects of the
Yeah.
evangelization process, which, might not even be you.
Yeah.
But um, but what we found was like socks are really good conversation starters.
Mhm.
Like there are people that have spotted a pair of socks on an airplane and then had a
Mhm.
huge conversation about those saints. We know people that, um, wear their St. Michael socks on their the day of their big job interview.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that wear our St. Peregrine socks when they go to their chemo treatments. We
Yeah.
know people that have been married in our socks. We know people that have been buried in our socks. Like
Awesome.
it's all across the spectrum of people that want to start conversations, or people that want to, quite literally, like no pun intended, walk with the saints, like want to
Yeah.
have the saints close to them. It's the same reason
Yeah.
that people wear medals or
Yeah.
things like that, to be reminded of their faith. But this
Yeah.
is a more of an outward way to be able to say, uh, you know, here's a little bit about me. Here's a little bit about the life of the saint. And then we try to like put little nuggets in the socks as well, to have conversation starters about the saints as well. So
Yeah, yeah, that's been great. Yeah, because I also I'll have conversations with even like Protestant friends. They're like, "What are those socks? They look cool." And like, it's like today I'm wearing the Eucharist ones, and I'm not flexible enough to bring my leg up, but I'm wearing the Eucharist ones, and even something like that, where they're like, "What is that?" And they're like, it's just like a simple question of they see the socks, it looks cool, and then they ask what it is,
right.
and then I've always been known for that, especially my personal trainer days, because our uniform was literally a black shirt with a small logo, so it just looked like we are wearing a solid black shirt, and we
Mm-hmm.
had to wear black shorts or pants if we wanted to, but it always got hot, so you were just wearing black and black. But the one thing they never like controlled was like your shoes and socks and stuff, and so I would always wear like calf high, like a little bit taller socks, and so I've always been kind of known for crazy socks. And then ever since I've gotten into the ministry world, it's turned into like polos as well, which is cool because I think you're wearing one of them, right? The
Yeah.
new
Yep.
polos. Which one is that?
This one is it's the keys to the kingdom one. It's like
Oh
has the little
yeah,
papal keys on it.
yeah,
But yeah, we I've always wanted to develop some sort of um, men's kind of elevated apparel line.
yeah,
Like socks kind of fit into that, but
yeah,
I want to, and we have a t-shirt line that's more of like punny,
yeah,
fun
yeah,
saint phrases. But you can't wear that anywhere. Like I
yeah.
would I would feel comfortable wearing, and we kind of got the inspiration from some of the more popular uh, polo companies that are out there, like
Mhm. Yeah,
Roback. I don't know how you actually pronounce it, but
yeah,
like you have to kind of lean in to see what it is. So we made like 5 designs that are distinctly Catholic symbols, but it's small enough and discreet enough that you could wear it anywhere without being wildly noticed.
yeah,
So, um, yeah, we're pretty excited for the future of that, and we're looking
yeah,
to develop some more brands that we
yeah,
can people can wear to Sunday Mass, to a
mhm,
Pacer game, to
yeah.
board meeting. So,
Yeah, yeah, which is great because that's what I actually found out about your guys' polos from a friend when I was wearing this shirt because
oh
they
really?
thought this was one of your guys's, and they thought that maybe it was like an Our Lady of Guadalupe type shirt. So there's they kind of look like stars. So it's
Yeah,
just with the blue, and I was like, oh no. Actually, I mean, yeah, this is from Target, but yeah, no, that would be a cool shirt. But then I was like, "What polos are you talking about? I haven't seen Sacrilegious polos." And then I saw them, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I've got to get on that because this is even kind of one of more the tamer shirts, but I typically have on some like crazy like patterned like colored shirts, and that's kind of what I've started to be known
hmm
for as well, which is cool. So I'm super excited about those coming out.
yeah, yeah. We're excited. We had a good response. We launched them at the National Eucharistic Congress, is where we first had them,
Oh, sweet.
and we got some really good live feedback there.
Yeah,
But yeah, we had people that bought them and wore them the next day, and
yeah,
we've seen people all over wearing them. So it's
yeah.
great.
That's so great. So, have you found that like I know like Shark Tank's one of my favorite shows, and I feel like Damon on that show he's the big like apparel guy. And
Yeah.
anytime someone comes into the apparel line, he's always just like, "Hey, those big guys are gonna knock you guys off. Those big guys are gonna whatever. Did you guys find growing it? Because you guys may be one of the big guys now, especially in this, definitely in like the Catholic world, you guys are. But like,
Mhm.
did you guys ever run into any of that where you think like, okay, we're getting into polos, but kind of had the idea of like I don't know, like maybe this, like maybe we're not going to be able to compete with Chubbies and Robach or whatever the other one's called.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even put myself in that category,
Yeah.
really. I don't think that we could ever necessarily compete in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I I would be like super stoked if one of those companies came out and made like Catholic patterns that they're selling on their website.
Yeah.
I would
I
be
guess that'd be a win.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a win. Like I would be
Yeah.
like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think my kind of approach to business, and especially in the Catholic space, is there's abundance. There is abundance of opportunities. We try pretty intentionally to be pretty unique.
Yeah.
There's things that are similar, like we sell T-shirts and other people sell T-shirts.
Yeah. Mhm.
And but we like if somebody else is doing something really well and that's like clearly their lane, I would much rather uplift them and their Catholic business than
Mhm.
me try to knock it off or spin it off into something of our own.
Yeah.
There's this particular line has been something that um, I've been excited about for a long time. And there's people that have done different variations of it, but I was really wanting to do that like really discreet version of
Mhm.
like being able to be a little bit Catholic anywhere,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is kind of
Yeah.
and it's the same thing about the socks, like being able to wear, socks to work every day. You can kind of get away with it
Yeah.
without, being super, um, overt about it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Especially for those people that work in like maybe work settings where if they were like just blatantly Catholic, they may be
mhm.
like, maybe it could even like threaten their job or something, which
Yeah,
unfortunately
exactly.
just
And
happens. So.
but I also want to be like, I want to empower people, especially in a business setting,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to live out their Catholic faith in a very authentic way. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's probably not like starting the Rosary Club at noon every day,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like, but if we had business people that were living their lives authentically Catholic, like
Mm-hmm.
that could change the world.
Yeah.
Like if we just carried out that Catholic mentality every day that you go to work, when you go home, loving your family. It's not something that you do only on Sunday. It's not something that you only do at home,
Yeah.
but something that you do and you live out in every way and shape and form that you exist, which is what we're really called to do.
Yeah.
Like, what if we did that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was thinking. And kind of going back on what you said earlier too about if someone else is doing something really well, you'd rather uplift them. I've like found that to be, I feel like that's like the Catholic entrepreneurial world that I've kind of like fallen into as well, just kind of with the podcast a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've found that too. Like it's super cool. It's like things work so well, and I feel like people can excel so much because it's not so cutthroat of
Yeah.
like people thinking like, well, if people buy shirts from there, they're not going to buy from us, or if they start this company starts growing, what if they start doing socks too, or like if this podcast starts growing, what if people stop listening to me? And it's been super cool to be a part of this world, especially the content creator world,
Yeah.
because I've been able to reach out to people like you. I have like Father Leo who does Plating Grace.
Mm-hmm.
I got him coming on the show in December, and it's just been awesome. Like the John Edwards who does Just a Man in the Pew podcast on last week or 2 weeks ago, and it's just been cool to reach out to people, even big name people like Trent Horn, who doesn't have the time to do this podcast now, but took the time to send me an email and say, here's some advice I give to all the people that want to start podcasts early. And it's just awesome to see, like, this is super cool to be part of a community that wants to see other people grow. And like, if someone else started like an apparel business where they're doing saints on pajamas, like you guys be like, dude, that's awesome. That's super cool. Like,
Yeah,
good luck. We're praying for you. Yeah, that's awesome. That's super
for
cool.
sure.
It's been fun to be a part of. So
Also, Trent Horn, come on,
yeah, I know, right?
be on the show.
What on earth? You're not that busy. Come on. No one's that busy. I always tell people it's virtual. You can do it from wherever. Like I'll record at 10 p.m. if you want to.
Yeah.
We can keep it short. We'll do a mini episode. But one day we'll get him. We got Father Gregory Pine. I got to get on the phone with him, which was super cool. He's like, he even told me like can't be on the podcast. I keep saying yes to things. I'm definitely a yes man, and my schedule's gotten nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, how about this? I retract the invitation. You're no longer invited. He goes, thank you. That helps a lot. So, but then I found out he's coming to campus on November 7th. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. So I'll get to meet him there, and maybe we can set something up.
Yeah, do a walking podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be cool. Just walk around campus. He'd probably just be stopping talking to people. So, which would be cool. But that's awesome. So who's the most recent saint? Was that the Maximilian Kolbe one?
We're getting ready to, I think it was St. Andrew was the most recent one that we released.
Okay.
And St. Joseph the Worker is on the 1st of the month. So
sweet. Those would be great ones.
Yeah.
Because I'm always looking, St. Andrew's good. My younger brother's name is Andrew, and I'm always looking for ways and reasons to gift people stuff like this, because I feel like it is such an easy way to introduce them to faith or introduce them to like just the cat, like anything Catholic, without being so like shove it down your throat.
Right.
And I come from a completely Protestant background. Like I said, I've only been Catholic for 5 years, and so it's been cool to slowly introduce this stuff. And I know like I don't want to shove it down their throats, but at the same time I want to share it with them. And so when I'm asked to pray before meals or something, I'll like think like, okay, whose feast day was it today or yesterday or like this week, and like mention something about them and incorporate that into the prayer. And so I've thought about doing that for like birthdays and stuff, or like the certain holidays of, hey, like this is the patron saint of whatever, and giving them that for their
That's a great idea.
So yeah, I think it'd be awesome. So when's St. Philip Neri coming? Saint of this podcast.
We just did actually no. I don't know. I don't think that's on the current list.
All right. Well,
but we can put that in the suggestion box.
Put it in the queue. I
Yeah.
just imagine you guys' inbox is getting blown up by people all the time. Just like, hey, do you guys have this saint? And it's just like, we'll add it to the queue. We'll see. So that's great. So the plans just keep adding one a month.
Yeah, at least sometimes we do multiple, and like, I think over the next few months, we're going to kind of what we're calling like play the hits again. So there's some socks that are just super popular. St. Joseph is by and far our most popular sock that we've ever sold. And we only have one St. Joseph sock right now, but we have like 2 different Our Lady of Guadalupe socks, and both Our Lady of Guadalupe socks are in our like top 10 selling socks. So the St. Michael and St. Joseph are 2 that we're going to do like a new design of and release another version of it, because I think people will like that. But there's still a big list of saints that we that we're going to roll through as well. So
I imagine the St. Joseph, obviously Christmas time or something, like wives giving them for their husbands, but then also Father's Day. I could see you guys having a spike of St. Joseph and even St. Michael, but St. Joseph for sure, like around Father's Day.
And it was the year of St. Joseph a couple of years ago, so that was a big help too. But I think there's so many people that look to St. Joseph as fathers, as husbands. At least I do, and it's consistently, one of the most frequently socks that I pull out of my sock drawer. So
that's awesome. So you guys have like a bigger mission too, of like what you guys like want to like leave an impact in your city, or if you guys like have like ministerial type goals that you guys are trying to do, like whether it's supporting someone or doing. I'm trying to figure out how to ask that question. Like aside from just like selling socks, is there like ministerial side, like where you guys are doing something on that side as well?
Yeah, it's not something we spend a lot of time like advertising and things like that, but we manufacture our socks here in our own warehouse. So I don't know, like 30 feet that way, there's 10 knitting machines that are making socks.
Oh, nice.
And several times a year when we have downtime or things like that, we'll take yarn that we have in inventory. Maybe we have an excess of it, and we'll make socks for the homeless, and we distribute those to some of the local homeless shelters and food banks and things like that in the Indianapolis area. It's nothing to the scale of like Bombas or things like that. It's not like a 1-to-1
Yeah.
ratio or anything like that.
Yeah.
But we, the bigger focus of the mission side of our journey is feeding products that start conversations. Like that's
Yeah.
truly what we want to do. Like we know that people are the driving force behind evangelization. And if we can give people more tools and resources to do that well, that's something that we want to do. So
Yeah.
another way outside of like the sock world that we have developed that is we have a website called parishgear.com. And you might know this from being having a Protestant background, but
Mhm.
a lot of non-denominational churches are really good at like marketing themselves.
Yeah.
They have merch stores and they have all these different ways. I mean, I can't go to the grocery store on the weekend without seeing 3 different mega churches that people have T-shirts that they're walking around like just proudly
Yeah.
saying that they serve or they belong or whatever it
Around
might
that,
be.
it's the Life Church sticker. It's like in the bottom left corner of every car, like every other car you see.
Yeah, exactly. And I really believe that there's a space for us to do that well. So we've developed this website called parishgear.com that we, with no hosting fees, no anything, we'll put together a collection page of like parish merchandise that they can
Mhm.
customize. They can put in their own parish colors, and then we put put it up for sale and allow people from their parish to buy it. We ask that they put it on their parish website and in their bulletin, and then we give 15% of the revenue back to the parish as well. So
Oh, that's awesome.
it's an opportunity for them to have a new revenue stream, but also an opportunity for their parishioners to like proudly wear their parish gear. I know my parish has like a school. So we have like a K-8, and there's a lot of school focused thing. But sometimes like that school and parish dynamic isn't always the same. Like people that go to the parish but might not have kids in the school don't necessarily want to wear a, a school shirt
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
with a mascot on it. They want to just represent their parish.
Yeah, and we've definitely seen that where I go, and it's there's a school, and then there's the parish, and then the priest that came along, who's there now, the pastor, he saw there was this like wall like between. It's like you got the parents over here that have kids that go to the school, and then you got the people that are attending mass 3 or 4 times a week, and like
Right.
really plugged into all the ministry stuff. And like we've got to break down this wall and get all of them intertwined, and they have like a couple of guys that are on both sides, and they've recently kind of started pushing more to like get like bring the dads and the moms over to the ministry, like to be plugged into like That Man Is You and plugged into Acts or Tree, stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
as well as getting some of these other people to, even if they don't have kids in the school, to support the school. So that way it's like whether it's just for with prayers or retired people that can volunteer, whatever it is, try to support the school so it is more of a cohesive like
Yeah.
effort. And so yeah, I think I have more apparel and stuff from that school, and my kids aren't even old enough to go to school yet. So I'm just always trying to support. It's like, oh, you're doing a fundraiser selling a hat? Yeah, we'll take one. No,
That's awesome.
but well, that's super cool. How many, you guys have quite a few parishes set up with that?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would say more than 50, less than 100.
Okay.
But we just started that maybe a year ago, so it's been kind of a
Oh, yeah,
slow growth, but
yeah,
still good.
that's awesome. Yeah, it's just that's super cool too, just to have like a professional company, you guys, that have all the like, hey, we can make the products, like we
Yeah.
want to provide this as a service for you guys and kick back some support to your parish. That's super cool. That's just awesome. I think another way of like just utilizing your guys' talents and stuff to support parishes from wherever, which is super cool. And that's kind of what I try to do too, is like as this platform builds is my goal is, because I've already been so inspired by these people like the Trent Horns and
Yeah.
Father Gregory Pine, who have like, I can't be on the podcast, but I would love to give you some advice. And I'm like, dude, this is so cool. And the religious hippie, who she's pretty big on social media, and she was on the podcast and was like, let me give you like my email so you can contact me directly, because I would love to mentor you on how to grow this thing, but also how to keep the right mindset. And I've already like been telling myself like, man, if this does make it big and like it does become something that God wants me like put a lot of effort into. Like I want to make sure I do the same thing for other people coming up. And
Yeah.
I know everybody and their dog right now wants to do a podcast, but I feel like there are certain people that are going to be called to. It's just such a the internet right now, social media is like such a mission field. It's I know some people are just abandoning it. It's like I'm
Hmm.
getting off social media, and for some people that is very good advice. Don't doom scroll and don't just be on here killing a bunch of time. But
Right.
and don't listen to this podcast more than you open your Bible. But then there are people like the Matt Frads and the Father Mike Schmitz. It's like you guys are called to like this mission field of online social
Hmm.
media and stuff. And so that's kind of what I've kind of felt called to that. And I didn't never knew what it looked like until we started this. And it's like, no, I think we may be onto something. And I still don't know what the future of it is, but we'll see what happens. So just kind of taking it one step at a time.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So, have you now growing this business? Do people think that you're just like the saint expert? Like, do they come and want to know the whole story of Saint Andrew because you guys are coming out with Saint Andrew stock? That's
Oh
all.
goodness. I hope not, because I'm not.
I'd be nervous for that. I'd be like, oh no. Like, actually, I was starting we're at St. Philip Mary's, the parish here, and I was in a meeting with someone who was redesigning our logo, and she was like, well, tell me a little bit about the saint first. And
Yeah.
I'd only been here for like 6 months. I'm like, I don't know who St. Philip Mary is.
Yeah.
But luckily, that meeting was
It was similar to when I was a wine salesman. I was really good at selling wine when I could look at the back of the bottle and tell you what was in it.
yeah,
I can look at the back of the tag of the socks and tell
yeah,
you some more. But
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So, but it's encourage you at least to like, okay, I don't know much about Saint Andrew. Like,
yeah,
let me read about him a little
for
bit.
sure, for sure, absolutely.
That's awesome because that's what I've just recently got into Lives of the Saints. If like early on was really obviously converted, and it's like I really want to know the faith. I want to understand it. Obviously, fell in love with the Eucharist. That's kind of the bit. As I've kind of reflected on it more, that was the big switch of like when like a deacon really dove into John 6, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm starting to realize I never opened my Bible, and when I did, I didn't really understand. Like, no, these people were like literally leaving him, like leaving Jesus.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not following you anymore. You are crazy.
last week's gospel, right?
Yeah. Last week it's been like the gospel for the last few days or so. But I love that he, just turned to the disciples. Are you going to leave too? And started to see us. So I fell in love with that first, and now it's just like been kind of slowly as I get into more of the faith. Now it's been more into. I just recently read the Priest and Beggars book, which is
Oh,
Venerable Venerable. Father Al is what they call him. His name's like Aloysius Schwartz, whatever. But he
okay.
basically rebuilt the church in South Korea after the Korean War, and so that kicked me into that, and then that meeting where I was just completely embarrassed and didn't know anything about St. Philip Neri. And I started reading about St. Philip Neri. I said, this guy's awesome. Patron saint of joy, which first of all is the coolest name.
Amazing.
Yeah, his heart actually, he was filled with the Holy Spirit and filled with like Christ's joy so much that his heart expanded, broke some ribs, and he had like for the rest of his life was deformed.
Oh wow.
So cool. But so I just started getting into the lives of saints. It was super cool, and even into this like podcast where we do the saint draft at the end. But yeah, I feel like as like the owner of that place, people may like assume like you're just the expert, like you know everything about all this things.
I know a lot of things, but not everything. I don't want to oversell myself on expertise, but there's I love hearing the way that our designers like dive into the life of the saints and figure out
Yeah.
these little intricacies that exist in their stories, and try to transform that into some piece of art, and then take that some piece of art and put it on a knitting machine and make it into a real product. And it's really, really cool to see ways that they've been able to do that. And but I love it.
Yeah. How's the like when you were like growing and expanding the team, like because it sounds like the artists that are kind of coming up with the designs and stuff obviously probably take a lot of pride in their work and like are really into it. How'd you guys come across people? Is it people you guys knew, or is it kind of just people God kind of put in your path?
Yeah, so Madison's been on our team since the beginning, and the other ones have been people that we have come across our paths. Like one was Ricky, who she worked at a Catholic school for many years and phenomenal graphic artist. but she actually filled in for Madison while she was on maternity leave. And we've had people that have done like contract graphic design in different ways, but Ricky works with us full time now. And just being able to see the way that God brings the right people at the right time in the right moment has been really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Because that's what I feel like with this podcast too. It's obviously just me, but recently I've had like people just on the show. One Focus missionary who's now working for Focus and moving to New York, and she was like, I would like we had such a great time, and she's such a well respected, like such a smart woman, and I was like, you should be like a content creator on this thing. Like you should be like the Mother Natalia of this Pints. If this was Pints of the Aquinas, you'd be like the Mother Natalia. And she's like, I love that idea. Like that'd be so much fun. And so she kind of like fell in my lap. And then another guy who just does video editing and stuff for the diocese and does like a lot of their social media communications. Mm-hmm. I was mentioning it to him. I was like, I used to joke with everyone on the show. I'm like, one day I'll like, we're going to get into the Saint draft, and one day there'll be a big graphic that's popping up right now, but Daniel McKay doesn't work with us yet. And I just used to make these jokes and just throw out his name all the time just to see if he was watching, and he wasn't, but I'd throw it out there. And then recently I was talking to him at an event, and I was like, have you seen my podcast before? And he goes, I actually started one the other day. But I was like, oh, okay, to keep watching, you'll be interested. And then he texted me and he's like, oh, you really want me to partner with you? And I was like, oh, you finally saw it. So, but it's cool. But he's like working on an intro video and a closing video and stuff
That's
like that.
That's awesome.
I'm just like, this is cool. Just how I feel like God sometimes has those people in your life, and it just ends up working out where people are looking for something at the right time, and just all connects. It's been a lot of fun to just trust in his will and know that he's going to make it work. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So now you said you had some podcast stuff too, right? Like there?
We do. Yeah. We're getting ready to have our 200th episode of podcast that my chief operating officer, Jeff Traylor, and I, before he even actually worked here, we started this podcast during COVID. And it's called All Set for Sunday. And it's a podcast for busy and distracted Catholics to be a little more prepared for Sunday Mass is the tagline. So basically we do like a 2-minute drill of the readings for the week. And then we have a rotation of priests that we work through that most of them are like friends and local to the Indy area.
Yeah.
But we have like a dialogue about their homily and what they're going to preach about that weekend.
Yeah.
And it's silly and goofy. And we try to like take the family perspective on it. And then we kind of just wrap up the show with some really dumb questions that we get to ask a priest. Like, if you were to do commercial space travel, would you be willing to celebrate Mass on the moon with us? And like,
awesome.
Just things like that. And that's the companion podcast that we have for Sacrilegious. So like we use it as like a way to share a little bit more about Sacrilegious. We're not as good about that because we didn't formalize it quite yet. But then another brand that we have is called Our Holy Home. And it's a Catholic home goods store. And think about like really subtle Catholic art that you can have in your home that isn't necessarily, super in your face, but small things that can spark little conversations here or there in your home. And then we have a companion podcast for that's called Creating Our Holy Home. We recently hired Jillian as our director of marketing, and she came from a B2B SaaS marketing world, but her most recent role was in launching podcasts for businesses.
Oh, sweet.
And this is just like right up her alley. But we're super excited about original content and what that looks like. And then our third podcast that we have is called Walking with the Saints. And that is a 90-second clip, if you will. It's a fun 90-second ditty about the saint of the day.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And that's aired on Catholic or SiriusXM, the Catholic channel, cool. Most hours of the day. So that's kind of a fun little way for them. And that kind of fits into their genre, but it's got sound effects and tells a little narrative about the saint.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. I'll have to You have to simulate. I'll email you after this, and we'll get all those links and stuff. So we'll
Yeah.
include all the links below. So we'll put obviously the Talk Religious website, but then also those podcasts and stuff. Because that'd be cool for people to check out. Are you always on all the platforms? Or are you guys a specific platform?
Yeah, I think we're on all of them.
Okay,
sweet. Or most of them, most of the normal ones.
Okay, great. That's awesome. That's what I need to get better at. We're on YouTube, and then they're always too long. These episodes are too long for like Instagram, which is my favorite social media to use. And Facebook's always weird about long video. I'm just like, I give up. I'm just gonna do YouTube for now. We'll get somebody. Maybe Daniel will put them on the other stuff. So,
there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Do you have any last plugs or anything before we get into the Saint draft to wrap up?
The only other big thing that we're working on is I mentioned parish gear, but we have a full custom print shop that we run for Catholic schools and parishes. So any type of promotional material, merchandise, things like that. We've got screen printing presses, all sorts of stuff to make really cool swag for schools and churches. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Oh yeah. And that was the other thing. We'll include that link below as well, like the parish gear stuff. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, great. So as you guys all know, we're going to finish off with the little Saint draft with the Saint expert from Sacrilegious.
Thank you. This
would be great. So how basically works, and I'll explain it a little bit beforehand, but for anyone watching that's never seen this before, is we're going to kind of go back and forth drafting our starting 5 saints. And we always do like a 6-man, so usually like a blessed, venerable, something like that. Well, only rule is obviously Mary is kind of off the table. If someone picks Mary, the game's over. So we always say Mary and Jesus are kind of coaches, and then
all Marian apparitions as well?
Yeah. Well, so I always tell people there's not really any rules to this. And so we've had people say, how about we get to pick a Mary apparition? I'm like, okay, you pick a Mary apparition, then I'll pick one. And then so we did one of those, which is always fun. But so we can kind of make up the rules as we go, just like kind of like Whose Lines It Anyway. I kind of grew up watching that. So so the guest goes first, and we're trying to build our starting 5 of if they were alive today, they would save the world. And obviously there's no wrong answers. So, but you guys vote below whose team you guys would go with. So,
yeah. All right. Saint Joseph, obviously.
Okay. Yeah. That's a very, very common number 1 pick.
Of course.
So I'll go with the second, maybe first. I don't know. Right up there with Saint Joseph. I think my first pick would be John Paul II. I think just great leader, just a great guy. I think he's one of those guys too that has like moral authority, is what I've been talking with my Bible study leader about someone who's just such a good guy. He's such great morality about him that even people that don't necessarily agree with the Catholic faith still love him. He's awesome. So
I was just listening to the Hallow app had a series on JP2 and the Witness to Hope. It was phenomenal.
Yeah. That's why I saw a picture one time, and he's like not in his clerics, and he's like smoking a cigar in a mountain. And so me and my wife went hiking one time, and I was like, I'm taking a cigar. I want to get a good picture of me just up here. Let's be the John Paul II hike. No.
That's amazing.
All right, round 2.
All right. In the Catholic sock world, we call it Saint Therese of Lisieux.
Oh, nice.
Saint Therese of Lisieux. Yeah, the little flower. Yeah. Finding ways to live out her faith in little ways. Yeah. And we try to do that a little bit too.
And so we knew if we had a girl, we are going to put her middle name Rose. And so we had a little girl named Adeline Rose in Rose after. We love St. Rose of Lima as well, but like Rose was around St. Therese. And so, amazing. And then she ended up being she still is this small little petite girl. I'm like, yeah, you've got St. Therese is like in you, which is great. So, and I love that the sisters who were like writing her eulogy were like, we don't really know what to write. She didn't really do anything. And I was like, that's awesome. And then they found her writings and everything changed. So
she was working.
Yeah. So if anyone was watching last week, this patron saint was picked, the saint was picked, and I was just like, that's the funniest thing ever. And this girl said, if I had to pick someone for her first pick too, she'd been the patron saint of coffee and ugly people, which is Saint Drago. And I was like, that's hilarious. And that'd be great. I'm a huge coffee drinker, so that'd be awesome. So I'm gonna steal that pick from her from last week. So Saint Drago.
Amazing. Yeah. What kind of coffee do you drink?
So I do just black. There's this what was that coffee place? So we have an abbey next to us, the Clear Creek Abbey, a monastery, about an hour and a half from us. And my wife just recently went over and did a retreat there, but they do their own coffee there. So anytime she goes there, she buys coffee there. But other than that, I'm like the opposite of a coffee snob. I'll drink anything.
It's just quantity. It's quantity over quality.
Or so It's just survival juice. But yeah, but I'm up for anything. We have a few great coffee shops here in Tulsa, Double Shot and the Collaborative, and so yeah, anything local is always great too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. St. Francis of Assisi,
Okay. My head.
the great lover of animals.
Yeah.
I don't know him and Claire, and I grew up at St. Francis and Claire, so I've always just had
Oh, nice.
some level of connection to
Yeah.
St. Francis, but yeah, St. Francis.
That's awesome.
And
Okay.
if it was today, he'd be rebuilding our church again.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's we always say we always use him for prayers in our house when the house gets a little nuts because we got 2 kids, but we also have. I always have to make sure I get this right. Yeah, 3 dogs and 4 cats, and so our
Oh
house,
wow,
St. Francis of Assisi, we need you to restore order. Things are getting crazy, and our dogs won't be dogs. So you throw them in the backyard, and they're jumping, just scratching the door, and it's just like, just stop, be dogs, like get out
settle
there.
down.
Yeah, it could be 60 degrees, and they're scratching at the door, like let me in, and they're like, oh my gosh, okay. That's a good one. Okay, I would probably go. Man, Teresa Blissou is always on mine too, so you got that one from me. So I'll go St. Catherine of Siena. I love
Okay.
that. I don't know a whole lot about her, but I do love. My wife picked her. She was the very first episode ever. Had to pick her as the first episode ever, just in case the whole episode just flopped, and I wouldn't have wasted somebody else's time. But St. Catherine of Siena, I know is she had been someone that told the Pope you need to go back to Rome, and was just very bold and I feel like that's what a lot of women need nowadays, especially with the whole craziness in society. It's like,
Yeah.
get some bold, prayerful women, which would be awesome.
All right. What are we on now?
This is 4. This
4.
is round 4.
Okay. Another bold young woman, St. Joan of Arc.
Ooh, okay. She's surprisingly not picked much.
Really?
She's awesome. Yeah, she's great.
All right. I've got a little bit of a secret. I'm going off of best-selling socks for the most part on my page here.
Oh, that's awesome. I was actually just looking at the website today, and I was looking at the bestsellers. I could have guessed if you'd have quizzed me and asked me which one's the bestseller. I would have known St. Joseph.
Yeah, I love St. Joan of Arc, and especially we have a 3-year-old daughter, and there's like this. Have you ever seen like the saint images where like they kind of the face is a little blurred? I can't remember the name of the artist that is more known for that, but the face is kind of not there. But the idea behind it is like being able to put yourself into the shoes of that saint or that role model.
Yeah.
And there's one of those pictures in my daughter's room. I think when I'm putting her to bed, like, I hope that she draws inspiration from St. Joan of Arc. So
yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I'd go. I think we need more men that are willing to sacrifice. Whether it's sacrificing their image to just be unapologetically Catholic. I think Harrison Bucker's been doing a great job of that. And I think he's been getting some good feedback, but it's always nerve-wracking to still do that. And so someone that sacrificed himself for the good of someone else who had a husband and daughter at home, or wife and daughter at home, St. Maximilian Kolbe. I think he's just great. Another one that I'm just now, he's kind of on my reading list right now, and I've been reading more about him. And that guy just concentration camp was like, let me take his place. I'm a Catholic priest. And it's like, man, you could have just stayed quiet. And I'm sure the devil was in your ear, like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. They'll kill you. Just live. And he's just like, no. And he stepped forward and took the spot. I thought, that's awesome.
That is. All right. My last pick. It's 5, right?
Yeah, this will be 5. And then we'll throw out a 6th man, which is like a blessed. Someone's not quite a saint, but you can go pick 5 first.
Okay. I'm going to go with St. Padre Pio.
Okay.
And another not quite sure why, or I know a ton of some of historical facts, but I feel like St. Padre Pio has shown up so many different places and ways in my life, and just want him on my team.
Yeah. And it's super cool to see if someone like him and his story could bring a person like Shia LaBeouf to the Catholic Church. That's super cool. And I love his I don't know a ton about him either, but I love his and actually that was kind of a purpose of doing the saint draft as well. It's I'm going to learn so much about saints. Anytime I bring priests on, I don't know any of their saints. But I love that I believe it was him. Someone in the comment section can correct me if I'm wrong, but he would have like literally like, physical altercations with like the devil himself or like demons. And
Mm.
so his like other monks or whatever would hear him upstairs being like thrown around the room, and they would just be like what's going on? And they go up there later and he's like all beaten up and stuff. And I'm just like, dude, that's wild. That's how you know you're like in a good spot spiritually, when like they're not just after you and trying to tempt you anymore. They're physically assaulting you. Like that's
Dang.
wild. All right, my last one. It's always hard not to put this person because he's literally in my top 5 of saints. Is Saint Francis Xavier,
Okay.
a great missionary, patron saint of missionaries. I work with the folks missionaries all in my life at my parish and at the university, which has been awesome. So he'd be great, and I think his like they don't know the official number, but I think they say he like could have like baptized up to like 300,000 people, and I'm just like, that's wild.
Wow.
That is really wild. And I've had some conversations lately, and like people are so against baptizing infants, like Protestants, like versus Catholics, and I think that's so interesting and so weird. And I've been trying to like look up best ways to like have that conversation with people, but it's just
Okay. 300,000. That would be, how many years was he a priest?
Oh, I don't know. Let's see.
Let's guess. Let's say it's like 50 years.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's gonna be like 75,000 a year or something.
300,000 divided by 50.
Yeah.
6,000 per year divided by 365. 16 baptisms a day.
Well, that's wild. Which is probably more like doing like every Sunday baptizing 50 to 60 people. Like
Amazing.
It's just wild. Yeah, that's crazy. And he was the one, I believe. Yeah, because he was the patron saint of one of our retreats, and he was like on his way to China, I believe. China or Japan. I believe it was China though. And he died before he got there. And so people like say like it would have been wild if he would have made it to China. Like China could be a completely different place. But yeah, that's yeah, he's great. So all right, so the last one is the blessed. Maybe we have a favorite blessed.
Okay, you go first this time.
Okay, so being from Oklahoma, it's always hard not to. And since I get to go first, since he's usually picked by my Oklahoma guest, it would be Blessed Stanley Rother. Just
Nice.
awesome guy who made it back to Oklahoma, and his family told him, like, if you go back, they will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And he easily, again, someone that easily could have just been like, you're right, I can't like go back. And he could have like cowered it out and done what most people would think is like smart, just save yourself. But he's like, no, I can't leave my people. And so he went back, and they martyred him. They killed him. But when they found him, his sleeves were rolled up and his knuckles were bloody. And I was like, that's awesome. That means he got a few licks in before they actually killed him. So I'm like, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, I'm going to go with Blessed Carlo Acutis.
Oh, yeah.
Which he's
awesome.
Going to be canonized.
Yep.
But I think he's still named Blessed.
Yeah.
But I think
it's until 2025, until next year.
Yeah. I think, I mean, we have a 6-year-old, and he's starting to get into like computer games, and I don't know how to parent that. And I think that the world just needs a good saint in the world of the internet. And my wife and I were like, all right, let's invoke the intercession of Blessed Carlo as we kind of navigate what this is, because we want him to be interested in like doing things in computing. Like it's an important skill, and but you know, how do you manage that? You can't just be like, here's the key to the internet, have fun.
Exactly. It's again, kind of what we were talking about earlier. Like, it's such a scary place, and like
right.
a lot of people should be very monitored or even off of it. But like, yeah, you never know. Like asking, Blessed Carlos Acutis was like praying over him and watching him. Who knows? Maybe he's the next big Matt Fradd or something, or maybe becomes a priest and is Father Mike Schmidt type person. So that's awesome. Yeah, Blessed Carlos Acutis also is. They've got actually connections with Saint Francis Assisi as well. Saint Francis Assisi like appeared to his mother and said, like, peace be with you. I'm going to botch this. Maybe it's not word for it, but it was something like, peace be with you. Be joyful. Your son is in heaven. He's one of the highest of high saints, and a whole generation of saints will follow. And she kind of like was, whoa, and like talked to her spiritual director about it. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, like keep praying with it. And like that could have been an like a appearing to you in a dream or whatever. And then a couple days later, or a couple weeks later, whatever it was, Carlo himself appeared to his mom and said, Mom, like same thing, peace be with you. Like be filled with joy. I'm in heaven. And they say that I'm one of the highest of highs, and that a whole generation of saints will follow me.
Oh, wow.
And I was just, I'm like, that's so cool. Like, that is awesome. And then it gives me so much hope and encouragement for like ourselves of like, okay, like Carlos Acutis is literally telling his mom in a dream that like a whole generation of saints are coming, and I was like, okay, so we can be one of those. So
That's great.
that's awesome. Awesome. Well, Scott, thanks for being on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Remember to vote below who you guys think had the best team. There's no wrong answers. And don't forget to subscribe and like and check out the links below for all the stuff that Sacrilegious is doing in their podcast as well. If your parish needs help with some of the gear stuff and helping get some talking points out, make sure to check out those links as well. You guys have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week with one of our seminarians from here in Tulsa talking about discernment. It's going to be a great episode. But for now, you guys have a blessed week, and we will talk to you later.